الحمد لله رب العالمين لك الحمد يا ربنا ولك العتبى حتى ترضى ولك العتبى إذا رضيت ولك الحمد يا ربنا أبدا أبدا لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله علانيته وسره. اللهم إنا نحمدك يا ربنا حمدا كثيرا طيبا طاهرا دائما مباركا فيه ملء السماوات وملء الأرض وملء ما بينهما وملء ما شئت يا ربنا من شيء بعد. أنت أهل الثناء والمجد أحق ما قال العبد وكلنا لك عبد. اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه أرسله ربه بالهدى ودين الحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا ففتح الله به أعينا عميا وآذانا صما وقلوبا غلفا وكان رحمة للعالمين وحجة على الناس أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك في محمد وآله. اللهم وزدنا فيه حبا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى أصحابه وأتباعه ومن اهتدى بهديه وعمل بسنته إلى يوم الدين وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of heavens and earth, the one that gave us shelter, the one that gave us food, the one that gave us clothes, the one that gave us intellect, family, security, and the one that brought us to the fold of Islam. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that we can count and the blessings that we cannot count. And I thank Allah for the blessings that are known and blessings that are not known. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who show gratitude, among those who are always thankful, among those who always see the cup half full. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Allah's final prophet and messenger, the bearer of glad tidings, the role model to be followed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and his family, his descendants, his companions, followers and students, and every man or woman that walks in their footsteps or adheres to their path until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah to make each and every one of us among them. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It has been almost 20 years since I started working with the youth in Islamic work, teaching them and instructing them and getting them involved and helping them maintain their sense of identity, their love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the Prophet and to Islam. And if you do youth work, it's a privilege that cannot be contained in words. And one of the most beautiful aspects about it is that you're blessed with seeing young people with different ideas and different perspectives, and you can see them change those ideas relatively quickly over short periods of time. And that is how young people are. They change their views to the right or to the left relatively fast, because this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. As opposed to older people who are established in their ways, and it would take so much effort to get them to change. But young people, you work with them for a year or 2 years and you immediately see the results. And one of the beautiful things that I've also experienced working with the youth is that you see them coming into the youth program at the age of 12 or 13, and you live long enough to see them going to college and graduating college and getting married. And subhanAllah, I've been in this city for over 10 years now, and I have seen young kids, boys and girls that were very little coming to my youth program, being dragged to the class by their parents. MashaAllah, now they're married and they have full-time jobs. I remember one young man in particular who was 13 the first time I met him, and was one of the brightest kids I've ever come across in my entire life. He was poised to get a PhD in astrophysics from MIT or something like that. Real smart kid, mashallah. And the conversations about physics that him and I had over the years were quite remarkable for his age. And he was always talking about Ivy League and always talking about making it in this world and the Nobel Prize and mashallah, such positive spirit I saw in him. And that's one of the things that I really want to talk to you parents about. If you have kids, sometimes your children are very altruistic and they're very noble and they are extremely naive about the world and they want to change the world. And we crush their spirit by telling them, this world is messed up and it's unchangeable. Just focus on your math and focus on your chemistry and get good grades and go to engineering and support your family. Forget about the world, right? Stop your naivete. Stop being so naive about the world. We crush their spirit. And I understand the world is a very complicated place. I get that. And I understand that there's no one man that can change the entire world. I also get that. But what I don't get is that we take our children who are ready to touch the skies, who are ready to reach the summits, and we curb their ambition and enthusiasm by making statements that are not really helping them. Let them be naive. Let them be very idealistic about the world. If they can't achieve 100% of it, they'll achieve 20%, they'll achieve 10%. It'll still be better than nothing. Changing 5 people is better than not changing anyone at all. Yes, we may not be able to change the world, but let them change their friends. Let them change their immediate community. Let them change 3 or 4 people. That would be good enough, right? But don't curb the enthusiasm and the ambition of the children. So this young man who was extremely ambitious and all out there, his family moved to a city that is not very far from here, but we were not communicating. And recently we got in touch, and I was shocked to realize that he went to a very small school, graduated, and ended up standing at his father's grocery shop. No more Ivy League, no more Yale or MIT, no more astrophysics, no more Nobel Prize and the desire to change the world. I'm usually very nice and diplomatic about these things, but I was way too shocked to be diplomatic. So I said, why did you mess up so badly? Just straight up like that. Mashallah, he graduated college and he has this thing with his dad and he's about to get married soon. What happened to you? Why did you settle for this? Mashallah, he's a very religious kid, very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and mashallah, straight up, one of the most upright people I know. So his deen is not affected. It's just his perspective, his outlook on the world has completely changed. This ambition is gone. And now he settles helping his dad, and he has 5 other siblings. Any of them could have taken that job with his dad at the shop. So I asked him point blank, why did you give up all your dreams? And he said, Imam, all I want is to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I memorized half of the Quran. I pray 5 times at the masjid. And I'm helping my dad. I feel very good about this, and I wanted to have rida in my life. You know the word rida is an Arabic word that means to be content with God's decree upon you. I just want to have rida in my life. And I know that dunya and the aspirations for everything dunya is not for us believers, because our presence in this world is temporary, and we will eventually have to leave this world, and I lost interest in matters of dunya. Whatever little I make at my father's shop is enough for me, and enough inshallah for my future family. That's all I want. I'm not interested in the affairs of dunya anymore. Everything he said seemed to be compatible with the general discourse in the Muslim community, with our general perceptions. Yes, focusing on the akhirah, on the hereafter, becoming religious is about worshipping more and praying more, is about staying at the masjid and reading Quran and adjusting your behavior and things like that. And people who focus on dunya, they would like to become wealthy and build businesses and companies and become so successful and own houses and cars. So the discourse was seemingly compatible with what you and I perceive as the right state of affairs of this dunya. But essentially, it is extremely wrong. This notion is wrong, that I somehow need to settle for less and need to give up ambition about this dunya, about this world, and somehow need to be poor or destitute or at least not very wealthy to become religious. These are false notions. False notions that did not exist at the Prophet's time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the family of the Prophet and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were leaders of their communities. They were wealthy and successful businessmen. They, reached summits of success and achievement in their lives. They actually say that, someone like Talha ibn Ubaydillah, for example, that he was so wealthy that by modern day standards, he would be a billionaire. By modern day standards. That his caravan would go on for about 1.5 miles of horses and camels right after each other, carrying goods and commodities to be sold, right? They were very wealthy people. I mean, some of them were average, but many of them were extremely wealthy and successful. So why is it that today the modern Muslim thinks that there is a distinction between the world of dunya and the world of akhirah? And they are not one and the same. In order to focus on the affairs of the hereafter, I need to give up dunya. And in order to focus on the affairs of dunya, I need to give up the akhirah. These are false assumptions. There are ways, brothers and sisters, by which we can combine both. Where you work so hard in this dunya and aspire for greatness and reach the highest levels and the highest summits of success, and still, inshallah ta'ala, be worthy of Allah's blessings in the hereafter. There's an ayah in the Quran that is extremely powerful that brings this balance to our minds immediately. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ. Utilize the resources that Allah has endowed you with to get a little bit closer, to invest in the affairs of the hereafter. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you wealth, gave you health, gave you family. Take advantage of the blessings of Allah in order to further your chances on the hereafter. But then the second half of the ayah is extremely powerful because it says, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Never abandon your proper share in the affairs of this life. In other words, do not make investments in the hereafter at the expense of dunya. And we say to people whose hearts are so attached to dunya, do not make investments in dunya at the expense of the hereafter. So, can you be very, very wealthy and be close to Allah? The answer is yes. Can you be extremely successful in your career and become an inventor and have inventions that are patent under your name? The answer is yes. Can you own a huge house and still be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The answer is yes. Can you own nice, beautiful cars and still be a religious person? The answer is yes. And on the other hand, can you still be close to Allah and feel the spirituality and the love of the deen while you entertain yourself and travel and have fun the halal way in the world? The answer is also yes. The mistake, unfortunately, because all these stories that we were told growing up, right? From the times of the tabi'een and after, of people that stay at the masajid and focus on ilm, and they have no interest, right, in money, and no interest in wealth, and no interest in success, right? Settling for less, for bland, mediocre existence. Those stories are quite common. And we are taught those stories, and somehow the discourse at the masajid perpetuates those notions. So now, unfortunately, young men like this brother I was talking to you about has to choose between becoming successful and following his dreams and getting a PhD in physics and becoming a prominent scholar, between that and being closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being religious. And my point is, we don't have to make such distinctions. My advice to all of you young people, and literally all of us, not just the young, my advice is find the balance. Find the balance where your heart is still attached to the akhirah, your heart is still attached to the hereafter without compromising the chances of success in this dunya. This is what we've achieved, unfortunately. Because of this false, erroneous notion, what the Muslim community today in this country and the world has achieved is this, okay? Being religious has become synonymous to how much you're able to give up in the affairs of dunya. And we have taken this dunya and handed it over to the hands of really, really bad people who now are in control of that dunya. What has that achieved? It corrupted our dunya, which was kind of expected, but it also corrupted our akhirah. You know that? It also corrupted our hereafter. Because we have become witnesses to tremendous atrocities and injustices that are happening around the world, and we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing anything about it. Civil war, displacement, refugee problems that the world has not seen before, and the Muslim Ummah is not doing anything. Why? Because being religious is about how much you pray, and it's about how much time you spend in the masjid, and it's about how many Islamic books you read. It is not about social action, it is not about social justice, it's not about change, it's not about helping other people. Being religious is about praying more, not helping a brother move. Right? Being religious is about spending more time at the masjid and not helping at the soup kitchen. Being religious is about reading an Islamic book, and it's not about reading a physics book and getting straight A's and going to Harvard or MIT. That is not religious. That's the affairs of dunya. But the affairs of deen, that's different. And that has hurt the ummah so much. All of you have been exposed to the imagery coming out of Syria, right? Who is responsible for that? Conspiracy theorists are just sitting there, just on their armchairs, right? In their air-conditioned rooms, sipping their apple cider, passing judgments about the world and doing absolutely nothing about it, right? It's an American conspiracy. ISIS was made by the Mossad, and this, all of that could be true. But what is your personal responsibility in what is happening in the world today? Completely forgotten. It is someone else's problem. And we keep making the posts on Facebook and we keep sharing stuff, but we're not doing anything about it. Children, little children like your kids and my kids, are drowning in the Mediterranean Ocean because those poor people, thousands and thousands of them, are trying to escape the hell that is pouring upon them every single day, and they get lost in the journey. They die in the journey itself. They escape atrocities, and they escape pain, and they escape all types of horror in Syria and in other places, dreaming for a safe haven, and subhanAllah, they end up drowning in the Mediterranean. Just the saddest thing. It's the saddest thing. Why is that happening? Because religious Muslims today say, I cannot go into politics because that's so corrupt. So let us leave politics to corrupt people. That will corrupt it even further. Right? Entertainment, media, it's just so corrupt. I cannot get into that. I'm a religious person. I cannot get into that field. Okay, let us leave entertainment and the media in the hands of people who continue to corrupt you and I, and your children and my children, and the entire world. Right? The financial field and the banking system, haram, riba, we cannot get into that. But we have to deal with it one way or another, because all of us are plugged into the same complex system. So you have to deal with it. As long as I'm not part of it, it's okay. Deal with the banks. Borrow from the banks. But to become part of the banking system, stay away from the financial system. That is haram and corrupt. Give it to the corrupt people so that they continue to corrupt my life and your life. Right? That's a great solution right there. And we are running away from responsibility, and we are convincing ourselves that being religious is about staying away from the challenges of the world. That being religious is about ritual practice. It is not about true engagement of society. That being religious is about giving up on dunya and not reaching summits of success. Now, you might think that I was inspired by this story today as a result of the images coming out of Syria. That's not true. I mean, that might have played a role. But you'll be surprised to know that I was inspired to talk to you about this because of an event that took place in the month of Dhul Qa'dah. And we are still in the month of Dhul Qa'dah. Last time we talked about Hudaybiyah, which took place in Dhul Qa'dah of the 6th year after Hijrah. There's an event that happened in the 7th year, just a year after. The Prophet ﷺ and the believers came, according to the agreement, they were supposed to come back to Mecca, right, for Umrah next year, which they did. Immediately after, something beautiful happened that most of us have forgotten, but we should still continue to celebrate. It's an event that has to do with a woman. And her name was Maymuna bint al-Harith radiallahu anha. Maymuna was a young woman. At that time, she was probably in her late 30s. But she comes from the most honorable and amazing families of Quraysh. Her mother, Hind, used to be known that she has the most honorable sons-in-law in all of Mecca. Because if you look at Maymuna radiallahu anha, her sister, Lubaba al-Kubra, al-Fadl, she was married to Al-Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Her other sister, Lubaba al-Sughra, she was married to Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. So she is the father of who? Khalid ibn al-Walid radiallahu anhu. So Khalid is her nephew. Her third sister, Asma bint Umays, was married to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and after he passed away, she got married to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Her fourth sister, Safiya bint Umays, was the widow of Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib radiallahu anhu. The who's who in Mecca was married into that family. As far as the average woman in Mecca, women in that family did very, very well for themselves. They got married to amazing people. They were known to be poets. They were leaders. They were very inspirational. Everyone wanted to marry into the house of Al-Harith. And Maymuna herself was married twice. She was divorced from her first husband and she was widowed. Her second husband passed away. And she was one of the first group of Muslims that accepted Islam after the Prophet ﷺ, called for Islam. She stayed with her family in Mecca and she did not perform hijrah, she just stayed with her family. But she was narrating a hadith. She was one of the core group of Muslims, very small minority that stayed in Mecca after hijrah, that continued to support each other and continued to meet and continued to exchange information about how to protect their identity as Muslim in a very hostile environment such as Mecca at the time. When it comes to honor, she had it. When it comes to deen, she had it. When it comes to family, she had it. Success, she had it. Wealth, she had it. Brothers-in-law, everyone around her, right, was an amazing person. She could have just said, you know what, I got married twice, I belong to an amazing family, let's just call it a day. I cannot achieve greater than what I've already achieved. And let me just be a religious person and just focus on taking care of myself and, my little nieces and nephews and my cousins, and just, take it easy. Go to the masjid, inshallah eventually perform hijrah, just go to Medina and stick at the masjid and just pray, right? But her eyes were always on the prize. How can I stretch the limit? How far can I go in terms of success and achievement? What is the ultimate honor that a woman in Mecca or Arabia at the time could have achieved? She asked herself. And the answer was simple. The one thing I have not been able to achieve yet is to be what? Is to become from amongst Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the mothers of the believers. That's the one thing I haven't achieved. Can I become among the mothers of the believers, which would require a simple step that is called getting married to the Prophet ﷺ, right? How can I achieve that? Can I, again, the objective was not necessarily to get married to Rasulullah. The objective was to assume the title of the mothers of the believers. I am now amongst the mothers of the believers. As the Quran says in Surah Al-Ahzab, النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم وأزواجه أمهاتهم. Talks about how the Prophet's wives radiallahu anhu are the mothers of the believers. I mean, if you are associated with a good person, naturally people will think that you are a good person, right? You are friends with good people, then people will think that you are a good person. Imagine if they said, oh, see that woman right there, all of her kids are really amazing kids. What does that say about her? It's a statement about her more than it is about her kids, right? Now imagine if they say, you are the mother of all the believers. What kind of statement does that say about you as a woman, right? I would like to be associated with the ummah, with all the believers, men and women of the ummah, I will become their mother. And that idea started growing in her head. And she started talking to her sister, al-Fadl radiallahu anha. And then her sister talked to her husband about that. And her husband, Al-Abbas, talked to his son, Al-Fadl, about it. And the family started going back and forth about the idea. Can you guys believe that Maymuna, your sister, wants to marry the Prophet ﷺ in order to become one of the mothers of the believers? And eventually the news came to who? Came to the Prophet ﷺ. We don't know exactly how he heard about it. Someone from the family, probably. And the Prophet ﷺ just admired the strong will of the woman. He admired her strong will, her ambition, her desire to reach that honorable status in her community and her society by associating her name with the Prophet ﷺ and the community. So what does he do? He speaks to his own uncle Al-Abbas and he says, I would like to propose. I would like to propose to Maymuna. Would you please talk to her on my behalf? So Al-Abbas said, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you send Ja'far? Because he was married to Asma at the time, Asma bint Umays. Why don't you send Ja'far? They're very close. She loves Asma, and she, as if she could say no. Why don't you send Ja'far to propose? So Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, subhanAllah, Ja'far had just arrived from Abyssinia. If you guys know your seerah, Ja'far had just arrived, and the following year, subhanAllah, right? The end of the year, you know, it was the battle of Mu'tah, in which Ja'far passed away, right? He became shaheed. And that's how his wife Asma, Maymuna's sister, was widowed. A couple of years later, she married Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. So Ja'far went to his sister-in-law, Maymuna, in order to propose. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is proposing to you. What do you say? She didn't say anything. She took her stuff, right, her 2 suitcases, hung them on her horse, and she rode the horse to the Prophet's house sallallahu alayhi wasallam and knocked on the door, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, al-ba'iru wa ma alayhi lillahi wa rasulih. I surrender this right and what's on top of it to you and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same day. She didn't talk about wedding or mahar. Oh, okay, so you are the leader of the community. What kind of mahars are you going to give me now? What kind of wedding are we going to throw? Right? She immediately goes and she surrenders herself to the Prophet ﷺ. What do we gather again from the story? And by the way, Aisha and you know the mothers of the believers, the rest of them would actually say, you know, that Maymuna was one of the most pious among us. They would say that about her. And in terms of narrating hadith, she was probably second to Aisha in terms of the number. She narrated almost 76 hadith after the Prophet ﷺ. She got herself involved in scholarship after the Prophet passed away ﷺ, and she died years later and was buried in Mecca. The point is the legacy of Maymuna. People tell you the stories of the mothers of the believers all the time. But for me, the legacy really is about the excellence that that woman lived. She wanted more for herself. She wanted more success, more achievement. If I can stretch the limit, why not stretch it? If I can become more successful, why not? If I can become more prominent in my field, what's wrong with that? If I can become wealthier from halal sources, why stop? As long as it is not affecting my health, mental or physical, it is not affecting my family, I'm not pursuing any haram source, then why not? Why let evil people get wealthier and continue to corrupt the world when good people are sitting just doing nothing, you know, accepting the 50, 60,000 they're making and that's it. And they're just really drones. They're pieces on a chessboard that is played by much more powerful men. Why are we letting that happen? If there's a chance for you to get bigger, to become more knowledgeable, to get another degree, to become more successful, to become the leader of your department, to open a new shop, why not? As long as it is not affecting your well-being, you just become a stronger member of the community and you become a better contributor to the community. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Money talks in this day and age. You read the article that was published in the HuffPost yesterday. What does the article say? One of the most powerful men in Washington today is the ambassador of the UAE. Would you have ever guessed that? Why is the ambassador of the UAE is one of the most powerful men in Washington today? Because he is charming, because he's eloquent, because he is very, very nice and pious, or what? Because he's backed up by billions of dollars at his disposal that he's using to continue to spread the corruption of his country in Washington, right? I mean, that is, don't quote me on this, that is my personal opinion about the UAE. That is my personal opinion about Dubai. But the point is, powerful men who are very corrupt, who lack morality and ethics, who lack principles and values, they continue to get richer, they continue to crush the weak, and they continue to spread mischief on this earth. Why? Because good, pious, religious people think that religiosity means give as much as possible from this dunya. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring a balanced perspective into our lives and help us see what needs to be done, inshallah, to improve our dunya and akhirah. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the heart. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالجنة. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر الميامين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وعلى أصحابه وأتباعه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. Brothers and sisters, I shared with you some thoughts today inspired by the marriage of the Prophet ﷺ with Maymuna bint al-Harith radiallahu anha in the Qa'dah of the 7th year. So this is exactly 1,430 years ago in the month of the Qa'dah, just like this month in which the Prophet ﷺ got wedded with Maymuna. And I told you the story of how Maymuna came to him and basically almost proposed to him alayhi salatu wasalam through her family, and how Maymuna was driven. She was driven by zeal. She was driven by enthusiasm and fervor for success and desire to become better and desire and aspiration for greatness. And the point of the khutbah is that we, and by consequence our children, because we continue to feed them those ideas, are settling for less. We settle for less because we've been taught that, just a little bit is enough, and you have to have rida, and you have to have content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. But the point is, you don't know. You don't know what your share of this dunya is, or how big. You continue to pursue it. You continue to find out about it as much as possible, and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decide where the end is. One of the scariest and most disturbing statements that people make to me is when they say something like this: don't worry about it. It is your rizq. It'll come to you wherever you are. You hear that, right? Your rizq will come to you. The sustenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come to you. Well, okay. Some of it will come to you in order for you to survive. Your water will come to you. Your food will come to you. Your clothes will come to you. And in some cases, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala denies people even that. But the scholars say the vast majority of your rizq is out there hiding under a rock, and you need to flip that rock and find out if it's yours or not, and you give it a try. The opportunities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had for you are out there in the world, and you just have to go out there and hustle and work as hard as possible with the spirit of a fighter, and not settle for less and say, okay, alhamdulillah, this is enough, I'm happy now. If not for you, do it for the ummah and for the community. The Muslims are supposed to be at the forefront of success in all fields, because we presumably carry the proper morality that will help us regulate the responsibilities we have, so that we don't abuse them or use them the wrong way. And I know I'm being idealist myself when I say something like this, because unfortunately that notion of morality needs a lot of nurturing in the Muslim community. Needs a lot of nurturing in the Muslim community. And I'm reminded, inshallah, just to conclude the khutbah, of a saying that, from one of the great books of Imam Ibn Jawzi. And Ibn Jawzi talks about greatness in that quote. And he says, ينبغي للعاقل أن ينتهي إلى غاية ما يمكنه. It behooves, it is necessary for the mindful, for someone who's smart, to reach the limit of what he or she can achieve. How's that? Let me repeat that. Anyone who's smart needs to strive to reach the limit of what he or she can achieve. Don't stop halfway and say, okay, I'm not going to pursue it any further. This is enough. What I have is enough. He says, don't do that. ينبغي للعاقل أن ينتهي إلى غاية ما يمكنه. ولو أنه كان للإنسان أن يرتقي في السماوات لرأيت القاعدة في الأرض من المقصرين. And he says, if it is possible for a human being to fly the skies, I would have assumed that those who are not trying are among those who are hurting themselves. They're not working hard enough. ولو أن النبوة تحصل بالاجتهاد لرأيت القاعدة عن تحصيلها في حضيض. Prophethood, the most honorable of any status, if that could be pursued by hard work, and it's not. He's just giving you an example. Prophethood is something that is handed over by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's the summit of success for you to be selected as a prophet, right? In dunya and akhirah. He says, if prophethood, hypothetically, was something you can achieve by hard work, I would have assumed that those who are not trying to become prophets to be at the lowest of the levels. Can you believe that? If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what else can. I want you to take those words to heart, brothers and sisters, and teach them to your children. Let them dream about changing the world. Let them be as idealistic as possible. They will gradually learn that the world is not black and white, that there are so many shades of gray. They will gradually learn how to focus their energy on something. They will gradually learn that they can only change 50 or 100 people at a time, that they cannot, unless you're an anchor in the media. They will become realistic and practical and pragmatic about things, but don't crush their spirits at young age and tell them just focus on your school. Don't dream about changing. I say let them dream about changing the world. Maybe inshallah some of our kids will do better than we did. Maybe they will become imams and change the world. Maybe they will become congressmen and congresswomen. Maybe they will become TV anchors. Maybe they will become Nobel Prize winners. Why not? All of those successful people, they come from the ranks of human beings, right? They're not aliens. Why not us? You always ask yourself when you see anyone that is successful, this is not hasad, this is not jealousy or envy, by the way. You're not wishing on them to lose anything. God bless you, may Allah increase your success. But you're saying, why can I not be successful as well? That's all you're saying. My friend at school, straight A's, and he got a scholarship to Yale. Why not me? I want that. Your colleague at work got one of his inventions patented. Why not me? I have a lot of good ideas. Someone that graduated college with you took one little concept and made a very successful business out of that. And you are sitting in your cubicle, 8 to 5, right? Why not say to yourself, subhanallah, may Allah bless them, that's amazing, I would like to be like that as well. And you keep that positive, powerful spirit, and you keep fighting with the spirit of a believer. And like I said, a few weeks ago, there is a very simple litmus test to gauge whether dunya has crept into your heart or not. Because that's the flip side of the coin. That's the fear. Okay, we're going to go as aggressively as possible to pursue the affairs of dunya, but how can I make sure that my heart is always protected? Very simple litmus test. If you are successful, are you overjoyed or not? If you are not successful, are you extremely depressed or not? If your heart reacts in a similar way to success and failure, then inshallah your heart is in the right place. Then it's not about the heart. It's just about an attempt to be a successful member of a community that has been given the responsibility to lead the world. And I'm just trying to be one of the khulafa of Allah Azza wa Jal on this earth. That's all I'm doing. If Allah wants me to be successful and wealthy, alhamdulillah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it away from me, alhamdulillah. But I will keep trying until the very last breath I have in my chest. That is the spirit of a Muslim. Your heart is away from this equation. You don't get extremely overjoyed when you make money and become successful and become prominent. And you don't get extremely depressed and contemplate suicide when you lose it. No, your heart is always in the middle. Alhamdulillah for everything. Ya Allah, I am trying for your sake and for my family and for my community. That's all I'm trying to do. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and to establish us with firmness on His path. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a profound understanding of the teachings of Islam and to help us take advantage of those teachings to change the world to the better around us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us establish ourselves as strong and powerful as a community of role models. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us raise our kids to become inspirations for others around them. Allahumma ameen. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في المشارق والمغارب يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم الشهداء والثكالى، اللهم ارحم الأيتام، اللهم كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم، اللهم خذ بأيديهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم احقن دماءهم واحفظهم بحفظك الذي لا يضام، واكلهم بعينك التي لا تنام. اللهم انصرهم على عدوهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم أهلك الطواغيت الذين يريدون أن يعبدوا ويطاعوا من دونك. اللهم أهلكهم يا ربنا وخذهم عنا برحمتك أخذ عزيز مقتدر. اللهم يا ربنا وأبدل إخواننا بعد خوفهم أمنا يعبدونك لا يشركون بك شيئا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات، المسلمين والمسلمات، الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.